These are stories buried in history, stories that weren't meant to be told, stories that governments, scientists, and historians did everything in their power to erase. But some stories never die. This is one of them. The year was 1947, the Soviet Union at the height of paranoia, when fear kept people silent and those who spoke too much disappeared. It was during that time that a secret experiment was conducted, one that would change everything. A group of scientists, handpicked by the government, were assigned a task to study the effects of extreme sleep deprivation. The goal? To create a soldier that needed no rest, no sleep, one that could fight indefinitely. And so 5 prisoners were selected, political and dissidents, traitors in the eyes of the state. Their crime? Questioning the regime. Their sentence? Something far, far worse than execution. They were promised freedom if they completed the experiment. 30 days. 30 days inside a sealed chamber, constantly exposed to a powerful, untested stimulant gas that would keep them awake. No windows, no escape, only each other, and the scientists watching from the other side. At first, it was almost normal. The first few days passed without incident. The subjects talked, laughed, shared stories. Their energy levels were high. But then, things started to shift. By the 5th day, paranoia crept in. Their conversations turned hostile. Whispered suspicions, they began muttering to themselves, or to something else, something unseen. The scientists took note. The gas was working, but something felt wrong. By the 9th day, it started. The first man screamed, an endless, raged, inhuman shriek that filled the chamber. He screamed and screamed and screamed, until his throat was nothing but raw meat, until he could no longer make a sound. But the others, they didn't react. They just stared at walls. Or worse, they started tearing apart the books and papers left for them, smearing the pages with their own feces, plastering them against the windows so no one could see inside. The experiment was no longer just a study in sleep deprivation. It was becoming something else, something unnatural. By the 11th day, the screaming stopped. So did the voices. The scientists watching from the other side checked the microphones. They were still working. The oxygen levels, normal. But inside, silence. They had no choice. They used the intercom. They said, quote, "Hello, are you alright?" End quote. At first, nothing. Then, a single voice, a whisper. "We no longer want to be freed." The scientists panicked. This wasn't part of the plan. So on the 15th day, they did what they swore they wouldn't do. They opened the chamber. And that was their biggest mistake. What they found inside was not human. The walls were covered in blood, the floor soaked in gore. One of the 5 was dead, his chest ripped open, his insides neatly stacked beside him. But not like a kill, like an offering. The others were still alive, but they shouldn't have been. They had torn themselves apart. Their fingers were missing, replaced with exposed twitching tendons. Their eyes, wide, unblinking, sunken into their skulls. And yet, they smiled. The moments the soldiers stepped in, they attacked. They fought with a strength that wasn't natural. It took 6 men to restrain just one of them. As they strapped him down, a doctor, barely able to keep his hands steady, whispered, quote, "What are you?" End quote. And then, the thing that was once a man smiled, and it spoke. Quote, "We are you. We are the madness that lurks within. We are what you hide from in the dark. We are what you become when you take away sanity." End quote. The experiment was shut down, the files destroyed, the bodies burned, the room sealed forever. But the story, it still exists. A whisper, an echo of something we aren't meant to know. Because in the end, maybe we are the experiment. And maybe, just maybe, we've already failed.